BMNR has been on an absolute tear. I've made several videos about this one before. I've been accumulating it the most of any stocks in my portfolio in September. I own spreads, I own leaps, I own shares, and I own cash secured puts on BMNR that I hope get called away, quite frankly, because I think that this can go into the multi-$100 range. I have over 20 tabs here of news articles that I want to share with you to explain why I think this is the case, why I think BMNR can surpass $100 a share and then some. Let's jump right in. Okay, so if you haven't seen my previous BMNR videos, then definitely go take a look at those first before we jump into this one. And these news articles that I'm going to share with you, I want to run through them rapid fire and I want to cover them in four main categories. The first one is institutional adoption of BMNR. The second one is the macro behind Ethereum overall. The third one is the accumulation of BMNR buying Ethereum. And finally, the fourth one and the largest category is the adoption overall. Earlier today, we saw Goldman Sachs saying they're getting increased institutional participation in Ethereum. So more institutions are now taking part in Ethereum. They want to be a part of that ecosystem. We saw, of course, last week, Trump's Ethereum exposure rises to 99%. This is WLFI, which is World Liberty, and that has mostly Ethereum in value. Of course, that's only $10 billion. That's pretty bullish considering the source where it's coming from. Of course, you have Eric Trump like tweeting about Ethereum all the time. I shared this on the Bootleg Weekly. The blockchain that has the most liquidity here is Ethereum from all the other altcoins available. Of course, Bitcoin is not shown on this list, but here you have other altcoins, including Solana, and you can see how Ethereum dominates. And the reason why this matters is because as you have more volume, you have more adoption, which leads to more activity, which leads to more demand than there is supply. And inevitably, the value of Ethereum is going to rise. And as it does, the value of BMNR will follow. Here you had a couple days ago, First Abu Dhabi Bank, the United Arab Emirates' largest bank with over $330 billion in assets, is, of course, launching a stablecoin on Ethereum. The world's biggest institutions are choosing Ethereum as the global settlement layer. Moving on, Peter Thiel, one of the most successful investors in the world, is into Ethereum. Ethereum is becoming the platform of choice for tokenization, for stablecoins, and for global finance. Peter Thiel also holds a stake in BMNR directly. So this is doubly bullish because you have one of the best investors in the world who is not only bullish on the underlying Ethereum, but is bullish on BMNR, the vehicle. You can see here BMNR from a technical perspective is really in an upward moving trend. They're making higher lows, and we really are looking for a breakout here beyond that $70 point. From a macro perspective, we have in the last 4 years, Ethereum supply has inflated by about 3.9 million ETH. However, in the last 2.5 months alone, the strategic Ethereum reserve has acquired 3.9 million ETH. So basically, in the last 2.5 months alone, they've acquired the entire supply of the last 4 years. 4 years of issuance that was locked up in 2 months by the strategic Ethereum reserve. And of course, it goes only higher from here. You also have stuff like this. Tom Lee sitting down with Vitalik Buterin discussing the alignment between BMNR and Ethereum directly. Like, this is as good as it gets. You have Tom Lee basically having a direct line of communication to Vitalik. And not only that, but you have the president, and this is what he has to say.
This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself. A lot of people are saying that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Yes? If you say yes, I'm saying yes.
And of course, Trump here was talking about crypto in general, but the tide has turned from a macro perspective on crypto. And really, right now, we're talking about that utility on crypto as well. And we also got news specifically from BMNR. We saw Tom Lee and BitMine is currently worth $11.2 billion as a result of their accumulation. They bought even more Ethereum a couple of days ago. And as of the 28th of September, they have over 2.6 million ETH. BitMine is now holding 2.19% of the total ETH supply, 43.8% of their target goal. As we know, BitMine wants to own about 5% of the total Ethereum supply. BitMine is consistently locking up $1 billion of Ethereum every single week. So, of course, if we're bullish on Ethereum, if we're bullish on that ecosystem growing, we're bullish on BitMine because they are the largest accumulator of Ethereum and they're the largest treasury in Ethereum. Here you see BitMine providing their latest holdings update for September 29th, 2.65 million ETH at 4,141 per token, $11.6 billion in total crypto, plus their moonshots investments that they have in 8Co and others. They also have 436 million in cash, as well as 192 Bitcoin. Here you can see that BitMine acquired over 234,000 Ethereum in the last week alone. They are by far the largest Ethereum treasury. You have SBET here, number 2 in Ethereum treasuries, which are colored in purple. And SBET might be number 2 on the list, but BitMine is 3 times the size that they are. We have here Tom Lee saying, as we enter the final months of 2025, the 2 supercycle narratives remain, AI and crypto, and both require neutral public blockchains. He continues to say that Ethereum remains the premier choice given its high reliability and 100% uptime. The 2 powerful macro cycles will play out over decades. Since Ethereum's price is at a discount to the future, this bodes well for the token, and it's the reason why BitMine's primary treasury is ETH. And not only that, BitMine remains one of the most liquid stocks in the US. One of the most traded stocks on the exchange is just this $11 billion company randomly. Why? Well, because they're acquiring all of this Ethereum at the pace that they're doing it. BitMine traded an average daily dollar volume of $2.6 billion, ranking number 26 in the US on the daily volume that they're doing. And here you can see some of the other companies that they're up against in terms of the daily volume. MicroStrategy is up here, Robinhood is up here, and all the way up. Of course, Tesla, Nvidia, Apple are the first ones because they're massive companies. So obviously they're going to do all the volume. But to have an $11 billion company here be ahead of Visa, for example, be ahead of Eli Lilly, for example, like that shows a lot of retail investor excitement. And part of the reason is as a result of their accumulation. Their Ethereum holdings surpassed $10 billion in under 100 days. So if you look here, MicroStrategy to pass $10 billion in the net asset value, it took them way, way longer than BitMine has done it. So this pace is definitely something to look out for, right? We see another post here. Eric Trump says Hong Kong's wealthiest families are all looking to buy Ethereum. So we have global attention that's now rotating into Ethereum. It's not just the United States, it's not just institutions, it's investors globally. We see adoption. I saw this post from Chainlink saying, we're excited to announce a major industry milestone. We see all of these major institutions, the biggest asset managers and banks in the world, they're all taking a part in crypto, and a lot of them are taking a part in Ethereum as a result of the utility. And in addition, we had news this week around the Swift network, which has over 11,000 banks and $150 trillion in annual flows, choosing an Ethereum layer 2 to prototype its on-chain cross-border payments network. Over 30 of the world's largest financial institutions are directly involved in this pilot program, $150 trillion pipeline through Swift. And obviously it's an experiment, but it's something that leads to much larger anticipation. Swift and major institutions team up with blockchain solutions to tackle $58 billion in corporate action inefficiencies. Of course, they're incentivized to move into these layer 2s for the benefits that they provide. This was one of the biggest pieces of news that we saw this week was Swift, $150 trillion payment system is now leveraging Ethereum. Ethereum is going to be the backbone of the financial system that's being built. You see all of the biggest institutions in the world, all the biggest asset managers in the world, all the biggest banks in the world are all adopting Ethereum at a rapid pace. And that is why BMNR is very bullish, because you have worldwide adoption. We saw Walmart talking about Ethereum, saying they're going to adopt Ethereum payments on their fintech app, OnePay. And more importantly, we saw the first ever NASDAQ stock tokenized on Ethereum as of this week. This news just came out through Securitize on October 2nd, saying here Ethereum is a decentralized stock market tokenization and tokenizing capital markets specifically is something that Robinhood has been talking about. Vlad Tenev recently talked about this just yesterday, saying tokenization is going to eat the entire financial system. Banks are the past, blockchain is the future. And don't take it from me, let's hear from Vlad Tenev himself.
And I think real estate's a big opportunity. I think it's smart that they're aggressively pursuing that because everyone wants access to high quality real estate, particularly the mass market.
But isn't it true real estate is actually more complex? I mean, they tried this before. It hasn't really worked.
It has some similarities to a private company, actually. If you think about what a real estate investment looks like, you create a corporation. Using that corporation, you acquire some assets. It has some costs, which you want to minimize as much as possible. Maintenance. It has revenues like rent, receivables, or depending on how you use it. So if you can tokenize a private company, that same technology can actually be used to tokenize real estate, be it residential, commercial, and yeah, I think we figured out how to do it. It's just a question of regulation and what the right products are for different groups of customers.
Did you hear what he said there? We figured out how to do it. It's just a matter of regulation. In other words, this is something that is coming much sooner than you think. And don't forget that Robinhood is going to be one of the big players in this, but Robinhood is also using Arbitrum as their layer 2 on Ethereum. Vlad is basically telling you that Ethereum is going to be the preferred blockchain of choice for tokenization. And if he's out here saying that tokenization is going to eat up the entire global financial system, and then you have something like Swift with $150 trillion that's now testing Ethereum, then yeah, obviously I'm bullish on BMNR, not only as a trade, but as something that I think can go multiple hundreds of dollars in value because of the pace at which they're acquiring Ethereum and the tailwinds for Ethereum as an underlying asset class that's going to appreciate in value many times over. I mean, Tom Lee even said, hey, we think it's going to go to 60,000. 60,000, it's at 4,000 right now. And so all of these things put together, the accumulation from global institutions, the adoption from all of these companies, from tokenization, from all of these payment providers, from banks, from asset managers, from hedge funds, from the entire Swift network, along with some of the brightest institutions and best investors in the world, the likes of Peter Thiel, they're all bullish on Ethereum and they're bullish on BMNR in addition to Ethereum. So I think that we have a lot to look forward to for BMNR. I'm really, really bullish. And I mean, I see this news every single day, and I cannot believe that BMNR is trading at the level where it is, because for the assets they have under management and the pace at which they're accumulating, I think they're going to hit that 5% target way sooner than people think. And they're going to raise more money to do so, yes. But obviously this is a flywheel, right? Because as Ethereum increases in adoption, it's going to appreciate in value, and that's going to translate to BMNR. And even after they accumulate that 5%, then you have staking, which is unlocked, which is a whole new thing for us to talk about. So long story short, BMNR has been the number one stock that I've been buying in September. And even though I came out and said I fully built up my position, I'm really still bullish on BMNR. And I honestly wouldn't be against buying more. I just don't want to make it like an unreasonable percentage of my portfolio. But I think that it's going to go higher. And I'm really incredibly confident in BMNR because of all the things that I'm seeing around the underlying Ethereum network adoption. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you are invested in BMNR, consider subscribing to the channel for more, and I will see you in the next one.